What's up, kings and queens? It's your boy Dan from Daft Previews, and I'm here to take you through the most comprehensive NBA player prop preview you are likely to see. If it's your first time checking out the channel, I'll let you know I do this every single day. I share my screen, we go through Outlier, I preview the games, we talk about key players, matchups, form lines, odds. I tell you what I like, I tell you what I don't, and I do all this to give you all the information that you need to make the best bets possible. Now, if you're serious about trying to build some bankroll, these videos are going to be helpful for you. So if you haven't, like and sub to the channel already, because I do this on the daily. Now, yesterday, back into the winning column, I guess. 5 and 4 in single bets, which is not great. We did hit a high value single play as well. But let's quickly recap the day and jump straight into the preview. The very first one I had, we had Tyrese Maxey. A couple plays on Tyrese Maxey, and my man went off. Firstly, we took his first quarter points prop, 4.5 to go over. That cashed. We also put half a unit on him to go over 6.5 points in the first quarter, and then that cashed. Tyrese Maxey over 30.5 points in assists. Easy money. Jared Allen got ruled out, so we jumped on Max Strus over 5.5 boards plus money. That cashed as well. And then I added Ben Shepherd over 7.5 PRA, and that was a good win. Now, turning into the losses, what did we have? Kyle Lowry over 3.5 boards. Didn't happen. Had foul trouble. Didn't play much in the fourth quarter. He didn't play at all, perhaps. Took Donovan Mitchell's first quarter points prop, and that did not cash. Man finished on 4 points in that first quarter. Darius Garland, I think he had 15 or 17 points in the first quarter. So that was a tough one to lose. Tried to fade Bobby Portis. Took under 36.5 PRA. My man went ham. That game did not go the way I thought it would be, which is why our next play, Miles Turner, over points and rebounds, that didn't cash. So the Bucks smacking the Pacers around. But look, it wasn't too bad. I was right on most of my picks. A lot of the games went the way I thought it would be. I'm somewhat satisfied with that. Now let's jump into the preview. Let's find some more bangers. Let's go. Right, so we're kicking things off with the Miami Heat versus the Boston Celtics. Big news. Kristaps Porzingis is out of this one, but so is Jaime Jaquez Jr. So the line hasn't moved too much. Boston Celtics still minus 14-point favorites in this game, looking to close out this series against the Miami Heat. Now, I guess it's always interesting when players get injured, lineups change. I think there's good opportunity on the board. How are teams going to adjust? What's going to be different about their play styles? I do not know, but let's get through the data. We'll go through Outlier and see if we can find some bangers. Let's kick things off. Let's do it with the Miami Heat because I do have some insights to share. Done a little bit of magic on it. I want to talk a little bit about Bam Adebayo. Now, I've won some bets on Bam this series on his points prop, and I've also lost some bets on Bam by fading him. The last game was the first time I faded Bam, and he went crazy. He killed it. A lot of the other games, I've backed his over, and he's done quite well. He's on a 4-game stretch where he's been playing excellent at the moment. But the reason why I wanted to start with Bam is because I've had to do a little bit of mathematics here to figure out if there's an edge. Now, looking at his points prop, so his line is 21.5 points. He's only cashed this twice in the 4 games this series. So far, he's had 24, 21, 20, and 25. So 21.5 seems like a very fair line. Now, the reason why I wanted to start with Bam Adebayo is because we have no Kristaps Porzingis in this one. And probably thinking about what is the impact on that. We don't have too much data to run off. So what I've done, I've actually jumped into each and every game so far this series. I've got into the box score to figure out as Kristaps is the primary defender versus Al Horford as the primary defender on Bam, how has Bam Adebayo played? So I want to quickly share the Excel spreadsheet that I've put together, if I can figure out how to do it, and then I'll show you what I've got. All right, so check this out. I've just put it together on an Excel spreadsheet just to dump the numbers in. So what this is Bam Adebayo's scoring stats when defended by Kristaps Porzingis and when defended by Al Horford so far in the 4 games. Now, obviously, Kristaps Porzingis has spent more time defending Bam than Al Horford has. Therefore, throughout this series, Bam has scored more points on Kristaps compared to Al, 34-24. But what I wanted to take a closer look at was mainly the field goal percentage to see how effective has Al been in comparison to Al Horford, Kristaps. And pretty much breaking it down, as Kristaps Porzingis is the primary defender against Al Horford, Bam Adebayo, far out. Adebayo averaging 8.5 points per game on 7.75 shots against Kristaps Porzingis, making 3.25 field goals. So that's a 42% field goal percentage when defended by Kristaps Porzingis. Now, with Al Horford, it's only 6 points per game on 5.25 field goal attempts, but he is making three. So 57% is his shot percentage when defended by Al Horford, compared to 42% when he's up against Kristaps Porzingis. And the reason why I wanted to share that with you is basically to say that my man might have a great matchup on this one and a great opportunity to go over his points prop. So as we jump into Outlier, we've seen 24, 21, 20, and 25 points for Bam so far in this series. His matchup against Al Horford is an easier one, especially when he gets into that mid post. Hit those fadeaways against Al, one of Bam's favorite shots. In the low post, I think Al Horford is a better defender, but at his age, and with Bam's extra length and size in comparison to Al, he might have a great matchup in this one. So I am considering the over in his points, but it's something that I do want to investigate a little bit further. But it's something that I'm liking so far, and it's an extra bit of analysis I wanted to share with you all. So that's Bam's points. Let's get into his other props and see what we're working with. All right, let's take a look at his rebounds prop, though. Actually, before we get to the rebounds prop, the other thing when it comes to his points prop, no Jaime Jaquez, who's been, I guess, one of their more reliable scorers. Not a top scorer by any means, but an extra weapon that they've had at their disposal. Now he's out. I think the pressure's really going to be on Bam and Tyler Hero to get some buckets, but maybe some of the role players could step up too, and we'll check their numbers as well. But Bam, let's talk about his assist prop real quick. 3.5, minus 135. That's cashed in only one of the 4 games this series. It just happened to be the last game where he had 5 assists. Painful, because I took his under in rebounds and assists, and this is partly why it lost, but he smashed his rebound line as well. So for this game, I've got no lean on the assists. Looking at his rebounds, 11.5. He had gone under in all 3 games up into that last one. 17 rebounds in that last game. Went absolutely crazy. Now, can he do it again? Sure. Do I think he will? I have no idea. It's Bam Adebayo here. I don't know what he's going to do half the time. So I think for me, the points prop, probably the one I probably feel most comfortable taking at this point in time. But yeah, not overly confident in it, not going to lie. So that's Bam Adebayo. Let's talk through Tyler Hero. Next man up. Now, what do we have? Outliers just running some numbers for me. Tyler Hero's first quarter prop comes up with a high hit rate. Let's take a look at this. So the line's at 4.5. He's gone over 4.5 points in the first quarter in 2 of the 4 games so far in this series. But prior to that, to end the season, Tyler Hero was smoking in the first quarter. So don't hate this, I guess. This is a road game in Boston. And what's he done on the road? He had 2 points in game 1 and then 6 points in the second game. So yeah, look, he only really needs to make 2 buckets given he shoots a high volume of threes. I don't hate it, but first quarters haven't necessarily been kind to me. So I probably look to avoid those. But let's get to his full props. 20.5 points for Tyler Hero. He's covered this in 1 of the 4 games. He went 11, 24, 15, and 19. Line at 20.5, despite no Jaime Jaquez in this one. But I think whether Jaime Jaquez plays or not, Tyler Hero still is the first option. I think having no Jaquez doesn't necessarily mean more shots for Tyler Hero, because I think no Jimmy Butler means Tyler Hero can take as many shots as he wants. And then looking at the 4 games this series, 13, 13, 16, and 17 shot attempts. So he has the green light. He just can't seem to get his shots off against this team. So the points prop for Tyler Hero, I don't necessarily love. His assist props at 5.5. He's cashed that in 1 of 4 games this series. So it's been very difficult for him. So I'd probably lean to the under on this, obviously. But, one of the games at Boston, the Miami Heat shot the absolute lights out. Tyler Hero covered his assist prop. Outside of that, it's been tough going for Tyler Hero. Looking at his rebound line, it's 4.5. So far in this series, 4, 5, 2, and 4. So another prop where he is somewhat finding it difficult. But again, more than capable of covering here. I think what I would be considering is probably an under in his points and assists, 26.5. So he has covered in 1 of the 4 games, yes. But in all the other games, he's really gone under it. That game where he went over was an anomaly, right? The Miami Heat, I think that was the most 3-pointers they made in a game all season. So I think what's interesting about this, though, Tyler Hero is probably playing the 2. DeLon Wright's getting the start. And I don't know how that's going to impact his play. Probably reduces his assists, increases his points, I would assume. But
yeah, I can't really bet on anything Tyler Hero related with any confidence, given the changes to the lineup and I assume the play style. So yeah, that's a difficult one for me to get a read on without investing too much time. I can't really give you a steer on it. My bad. But who else do we have in this game? We've got Nikola Jovic. So this guy busted my balls in that last game. Didn't even get close to covering the props I needed him to because the minutes weren't there. So really interested to see what happens if there's no Jaime Harkers in the lineup, and we can run that filter on Nikola Jovic and see what's cooking. So firstly, his point sign's at 9.5. It's gone up despite only scoring 3 points in that last game. He had covered in the 3 games prior, but in that last game, where I happened to bet him, he only played 16 minutes, which is the lowest he's had all series. Now, Nikola Jovic, he does, when they go small, sometimes he does play the 5 when Bam's off. That didn't necessarily happen in that last game. So really interested to see, one, how many games has Jaime Harkers missed this season, because we'll run Jovic's numbers without him on the season. So Jaime Harkers missed 6 games this year that Nikola Jovic played in, and in those games, he averaged 15.8 minutes. So not amazing, but a lot of these were earlier in. So yeah, 18 minutes, not great, to be honest. If we look at his recent numbers, he's getting a lot more runtime as it is. So far in this series, he's seen 25, 25, 34, and then down to some minutes in that last game. So yeah, if Nikola Jovic get back to 25 minutes in this one, the 9.5 point line I don't necessarily hate. One that could be a good look is maybe his 3-point prop, because yeah, in 3 out of the 4 games where he's covered his points line, he's covered his 3-point line as well. But I probably like the better odds. Better odds meaning you get more money back for the play if it hits. What I'm going to do is I'll take Nikola Jovic's points line. The one thing I want to research, well, I want to research the player, to be honest. I want to see what are the reasons why he played less minutes in that last game, who played more minutes. So I'll probably check the box score for that. I'll probably check some news articles as well to see what's cooking. Why did my man get relegated? His rebound line, 5.5. Very similar to his line, impacted by the minutes you've seen in the first 3 games of the series. When he gets the minutes, he'll get the rebounds, right? But when the minutes aren't there, his rebounds have dropped off. So 5.5 boards for Jovic at plus 120. That's not a bad play either. So the last play I took on for him, which didn't hit because he didn't play, was his points plus rebounds. That might be a player that I look to run back because I can't necessarily decide which I like better, his points or his rebounds. But yeah, I will be having a look at both of them. Caleb Martin, so that could be an interesting look. He would probably see an uplift in his minutes, believe it or not. But let's check him out real quick, see what's cooking here. So Caleb Martin, his points prop, 12.5. So far in this series, my man's been wild. 4 points, 21, 5, 18 points. Looking at his minutes, his last 3 games, he's seen a big uplift in his minutes, 36, 37, and 37. Looking at his field goals attempted, though, like a damn yo-yo, 6, 12, 4, 14. So my man be bouncing up and down, and we know he's a capable playoff performer. If you look at this graph here, this is the games against Boston. The games against Boston in last season's playoffs. Caleb Martin was an absolute beast. Some would argue he was better than Butler in that series. But so far in this series, he's been quite up and down. So it's a bit hard to get a read on how well does he play in this one. So yeah, even though he's probably capable for greatness, I can't tell you whether that's going to happen or not. Looking at his assist prop, he hasn't cashed that in 4 straight games in this series. So no surprise to see it paying plus money for him to go over. And then his rebound line's at 4.5. He's cashed that in 1 of the 4 games. His last game he had 5, but outside of that, 4, 2, 3, and 5. So yeah, I can't get a good read there on Caleb Martin. I think he's going to get the minutes though, but he's shown us in 36 minutes doesn't necessarily hit these props. And I'm not sure what the impact of no Jaime Harkes is going to be. But one player that could benefit is Haywood Smith. And his lines are notoriously low, but he's been capable of really popping off. I think it's his ability to play defense what keeps him on the court. But let's take a look at his recent games. In this series, 0 points in game 1, 9 points, 8 points, and then down to 3. In that last game, very similar to Jovic, saw a big reduction in his minutes down to 18 after playing a little bit more in those first 3. His shot attempts, very similar to what it's 4, 6, 7, and 6, but yeah, it really comes down to shooting percentage. He does take quite a few threes. A large portion of his shots come from downtown. Unfortunately, he doesn't shoot them very well. So, yeah, I'm not overly keen on Haywood Smith, I've got to tell you. So, looking at these Heat players, I would say Bam and Nikola Jovic. I think they're the ones, if I make a play on the Miami Heat players, they're the ones that I'll be looking at. Now, jumping over to these Boston Celtics. What's this one? Jason Tatum. His points and rebounds prop is gone under it easily. So let's check it out. Points and rebounds under 37.5. So he's gone under that in 10 straight games, all 4 games in this playoffs. But his lines would be elevated with no Kristaps Porzingis. So looking at his last 10 games without Kristaps, he's gone under in 6 out of his last 10. So, it does see an uplift in his points without Kristaps, as you would expect with extra usage. But let's really break down this prop to see how well Jason Tatum plays with and without for each particular prop. So this is his points. 26.5 points is the prop. He's gone under it in 9 of his last 10 games, only hitting it once so far in this series. On the season, Tatum's averaging 26.6 points per game. Now, this season, without Kristaps Porzingis, that average goes up to 28.8. So 2 points higher than his average. Let's see what else changes. Field goal attempts, 20.3, and that is without Kristaps. And then with Kristaps, 18.7. So it's about a 2-shot difference and a 3-point difference when we add and remove Kristaps Porzingis. Now, Tatum in the series hasn't been the greatest, but I guess he hasn't needed to be great. The only game where he went over his points prop line was the game that they lost. The line at 26.5, we know that they're going to take shots. The challenge is his shot percentage has been quite poor this series, especially from downtown, yet to get it popping. Look at these 3-point numbers. 1 from 8, 2 from 6, 2 from 7, 2 from 6. I've seen some people betting he's over in his 3-point prop, which I assume is at 2.5. It is minus 130. People are betting the over in his 3-point prop, expecting that game where he bounces back. And unfortunately, my man hasn't been bouncing. So I personally, not a big fan of Jason Tatum points or 3-point props until he shows that he can get shit together. One that has been going quite well is his rebound prop, though. Now, the line in this game is 10.5. In the previous games, his lines have been about 8.5. And the 8.5 had cashed in 3 out of the 4 games. The 10.5, though, they have cashed in the last 2. Now, I want to quickly run the numbers with and without Kristaps on the season. So, Tatum averaging 8.2 boards in this season. With Kristaps, 8.6. And then without Kristaps Porzingis, 7.1. So, you would think with Kristaps Porzingis out of the lineup, Jason Tatum would be able to get more rebounds. The season data tells us when Kristaps Porzingis is not in the lineup, Tatum actually gets less rebounds. And why is that? Is it probably because there's no rim protection? Teams shoot a higher field goal percentage. I'm not too sure on those numbers, but what I do know is Jason Tatum, his rebound numbers get worse when Kristaps is not playing. So I'm not too keen on taking the over on the rebounds prop here. And if we look at his assist prop, I don't think that is impacted by Kristaps Porzingis. But 5.5, he's covered that into the 4 games, 10, 3, 6, and then 5. So, yeah, I've got to tell you, I think the play that I'm thinking about is probably the under 42.5 PRA for Jason Tatum. The under's cash in 3 out of the last 4. I get that there's no Kristaps Porzingis. I just feel like Jason Tatum probably doesn't do too much more with or without Kristaps. But I'm not going to be betting it. It's just my gut feel. I also don't really like Jason Tatum too much as a player. I don't like the choices he makes, his shot selection, lack of aggressiveness at times. So there's probably a bit of a bias in that one. All right, let's check to see who else we got. We got Jaylen Brown. I also bet on him in the last game. It didn't cash. I actually took this exact bet here. His points plus runs. But I did take the over. Now, his line's moved up to 30.5. The under's cashed in 9 of his last 10, and it's also cashed in 3 of the 4 games so far in this series. Now, let's take a look at Jaylen Brown. We'll do the Kristaps Porzingis filters real quick. But his points line's at 23.5. He's gone under that in 3 out of the 4 games, had 1 strong game without them. So on the season, let's do with Kristaps. You're looking at 22.2 points per game. Without Kristaps, we're probably going to see 23 here. Actually, that's a lie. 25. 11 out of 19 games, Jaylen Brown. So big up. So it's a 3-point uplift for Jaylen Brown when it comes to points per games without Kristaps. But 58% hit rate covering this line against the prop. 58%, 11 out of 19 games. So he does see an uplift, but again, it's not the most consistent hit rate either. It's not the most significant uplift. So 19.3 field goals attempts without Kristaps. With Kristaps in the lineup this year, 19.5. So it's one shot difference really with and without Kristaps. So I think the question comes down to Kristaps there or not. Do you like Jaylen Brown to cover his points line at 23.5? I personally really love it, to be honest. Hasn't hit quite far in this series. Yeah, just 1 out of the 4 games. Jaylen Brown, what's he shooting? 50%, 57, 55, 39% in that last game. So I think if the shot percentage is not bad, but it's really about volume, but also aggressiveness. If we take a look at it, not getting to the free throw line very much at all, and he's not shooting too well from deep. So I probably do like Jaylen Brown's one a little bit better than Jason Tatum, but I don't think I love this enough to bet it. Looking at his assist prop, 2.5 is the line. So he's covered that in 2 out of the 4 games this series. 3-1, 3 and 2. 2.5 being the line. With or without Kristaps, I'm not absolutely loving this. I'd probably lean to the over, to be honest. But yeah, I'm not too confident in taking anything on Jaylen Brown. I don't think. His rebound line at 6.5. This might be something that I can get around, actually. Now, I'll confess, I liked his rebound line in the last game, which didn't hit, but he had been covering it quite well in the first 3 games of this series with 8 rebounds in each one. Looking at his rebound chances, though, this is where it's pretty important to check. So the first game, he had 17 rebound chances and had 8 rebounds, right? Which is just under 50%. 50% of the rebound chances resulted in a rebound for Jaylen Brown. The following 2 games, he only had 10 and 11 rebound chances and still had 8 rebounds. That's like over or higher, right? Which is not something that you would expect. And then in the last game, he only had 5 rebounds from 11 rebound chances, and that pretty much aligns to the rebound rate in his first game, which I think is a fair assumption. Now, if Jaylen Brown's only going to get 11 rebound chances, I would not be taking over the 6.5 board. So, yeah, actually, I'm a little bit cautious on this one. I don't like it either. But I think, look, you get more wins from not betting certain players than you will from betting others. So the more players I decide not to bet on, I think the better for my bankroll. So, yeah, what do we got? I don't like Tatum's props. I don't like Jaylen Brown's props. They're more than capable of going off, but I can't get that happens. We then have Al Horford. Now, I already know that Al Horford's numbers with and without Kristaps aren't that great, but let me go through them. Let me talk you through them. His points line's at 9.5, which is 3 points higher than what his lines have been when he's on the bench. So if we look at the games without Kristaps Porzingis this season, small sample, 19 games, but Al Horford, 58% hit rate, 11.63 as an average, 4 games without Chris in the lineup. With Kristaps, he's averaging 7.4. So he does see a considerable uplift in his points, but I also think the line is just about right. So the line's gone up. What he averages with and without Kristaps, I think it's a fair play to look at. But it comes down to shot attempts. So in 19 games without Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford still only shooting the ball 8 times. There's been a few games where he's gone on absolutely taking a lot more shots, but for the most part, averaging 8.1 attempts. So 52% from 8.1 attempts with 2 3-pointers made and barely any free throws. So if it is the 4.2 attempts, you're looking at about 8 points per game on twos, 8 points per game. And what we're saying is at least 2 of those are 3-pointers. So that projects him to 10, which is how this line at 9.5 is probably spot on. So I think it comes down to, do you think he's going to shoot a higher field goal percentage than 50% in this game? Or do you think he's going to take more than 10 shots? That's the question you need to ask yourself if you're thinking taking this play on Al Horford. Looking at the 4 games so far in this series, what do we see though? His shot attempts are low. 5, 1, 4, and 3. With the extra game time, he might get to 8 shots in this game. But his field goal percentage Actually, this is his shot attempts. My bad. 8, 3, 7, and 5. His field goal percentage is at 58% though. So if he can get the 8 shots off and shoot that high as a field goal percentage, we might be on the money here. We might be. But it also comes down to his 3-pointers. So you saw the season without Kristaps making 2.5 3-pointers per game. So far in this series, he's making 1.4. So he's taking less, making less, 44% from the field. I can't take this points prop. I think this line is bang on. I don't think there's an edge in it. So be cautious if you do choose to play Al Horford. Looking at his rebounds, though, 7.5's the line. In the 4 games, he's had 7, 8, 6, and 8. So and he's been getting 24.2 minutes per game. The last game, he had 34 minutes, but still only finished with 8 boards. In this game, with no Porzingis, I'd probably project him between 30 and 35 minutes as well. So I think the rebound opportunities might be there. Looking at rebound chances, 8, 12, 11, and 11. So the difference here is Al Horford in the starting lineup is different when he's coming from the bench. When he plays on that bench role, he's playing against the second unit most times, and that second unit probably doesn't shoot as well as the starting lineup, meaning rebounds might come a little bit easier for Al Horford. So, yeah, I, for one, not overly keen on betting on Al Horford in this game. All right, next up, let's have a quick look at Drew Holiday, see what's cooking over here. So, Drew, what have his numbers been looking like? So, his points line, 11.5. He has yet to cover this in this series. 4, 6, 9, 3, and 11 points in the 4 games so far. Let's talk about it in terms of minutes. 33, 37, 34, 38. So his minutes are very good. Field goal attempts, 8, 12, 5, and 10. But his field goal percentage has been nasty, which is not good. 33% from the field, 32% from downtown. Yeah, so the percentages are the ones that I'd be really concerned about. Let's just check out his games without Kristaps to see what changes. So on the season without Kristaps, it's been 20 games. Drew Holiday averaging 13.3 points per game. We're seeing 33 minutes and almost 11 field goal attempts. And if we have at the games with Kristaps, 11.75, 9.6 field goal attempts. So the volume doesn't necessarily change too much for Drew Holiday, I got to tell you. And his points line in this game, 11.5. I think, that's less than what he averages with Kristaps. So without him, those numbers are a little bit higher. But the book is really compensating for his poor play, I would say. So, yeah, Drew Holiday, I'm not overly keen on that. The volume might increase, but at these percentages, I'm probably not overly keen on playing him, to be honest. His assist line, that's at 4.5. It's plus money now. He's cashed in 2 out of the 4. His last 2, 6 and 6 assists. If we look at let me go to the last 5. 7.2 potential assists as an average in his last 5 games. The last 2 games, 10 and 8 potential assists, which is not too bad, but you need to get 5. So you'd be hoping for at least 10 potential assists. And without Porzingis, I don't know if that, I probably wouldn't feel too confident in taking the assist prop for Drew Holiday. So Porzingis, probably the player who's most likely to catch and shoot. So that makes it a bit difficult. Rebounds 5.5. He's cashed this in 2 of the 4 games. Honestly, I'm not loving what I'm seeing from any of these Boston Celtics players. I got to tell you, I think I've felt that way all year, believe it or not. The one that I have, probably the Boston Celtic player I'd probably bet on the most is Kristaps Porzingis, because I think he's the only one who I would say is predictable in his approach. What he's going to do, how he's going to play, whereas all these other fuckers share the ball around, and some people shoot it, some people don't. Sometimes they rebound, sometimes they don't. It's an absolute pain in the ass. But let's take a look at Derek White. So his points line, 15.5. He's cashed this in 3 out of the 4 games. We have no Porzingis, so you would expect more usage rate from Derek White. I feel like this is just too obvious a play. So let's just check these 4 games. 20, 13, 16, and 38 points erupted. Minutes are fine. You don't have to worry about minutes with Derek White. Shot attempts, 10, 8, 14. Now, that last game where he scored 38 points, he shot the ball 26 times. If you did watch my video, I had this as a lean. I was like, 12.5 points for Derek White. I think he goes over, but then I was like, my concern is the volume, because he was shooting 60, 63, 50%. So his shot percentage was quite high. And I was thinking, if he doesn't get the shot attempts up, he probably won't be able to hit the line. And he goes out there and shoots the ball 26 times. He covers his first point. He covers his prop line in the first quarter. So I did it last time. Do I take it now? Because 15.5 seems quite easy, in my opinion, for Derek White, based on how this series has been looking. Let's have a quick look at the season to see if there are any differences with and without Kristaps. So without Kristaps Porzingis, 15.7 points, 12.7 attempts. With Kristaps, 15.4 is an average and 11.3 attempts. So his numbers don't honestly change too much, believe it or not. So another player not so much impacted by Kristaps Porzingis. So where am I at with this one? So Derek White looks like the only Celtics player where I'm seeing enough green, which means that it's actually been happening, but it feels like the most obvious play in this game. And that I'm also fearful of. If the play is so obvious, a lot of the time it doesn't hit. But look, I'm going to add Derek White to my short list. I'll investigate things a little bit further. But unless I find something absolutely concrete, I'm probably not going to take this bet because the ones that are too obvious tend to blow up in my face. So his assist prop, 4.5. He's gone under in all 4 games. He might get more usage with no Kristaps Porzingis. Looking at his potential assists, we've seen 6, 8, 7, and 2. So with those potential assist numbers, averaging 6.2 in his last 5, I don't like him to get 5 assists, but the odds indicate plus 125 for him to go over. So he's most likely to go under, but at minus 130 odds, I don't know if that's a play that anyone would be willing to take. And then we look at his rebound line, 4.5. He's covered that in 1 of 4 games so far in this series. Looking at his rebound chances, 7, 4, 8, and 11. So, yeah, look, I'm not loving this either too much, to be honest. So Derek White, not too keen on that. I think two players I want to have a quick look at before we jump into the next one would probably be Sam Hauser off the bench. Let's look at his points prop really quick. And then we'll have a look at Peyton Pritchard. We'll see what's cooking over there. I have a feeling his assist prop could be a juicy one, potentially. Too sure. Sam Hauser, 12 points in the first game of the series, has gone under his points line in the next 3. I don't think this guy sees more minutes because there's no Kristaps Porzingis. I think the blowout is where Sam's going to get more opportunities, but I'm not liking what I'm seeing so far from Sam Hauser, so we can piss him right off. Now let's take a look at Peyton Pritchard real quick. His assist prop is the one that's been hitting quite well. 2.5, minus 148 there. That's not great. He's cashed his assist line in 3 out of the 4 games, but the odds for that are pretty ass, so I don't like that. If we look at his points prop, 6.5, it's plus money. That's cash in 2 out of the 4 games this series. He scored 0 points in the last game, 0 from 4. So the volume's not very high. Based on trends, he's probably likely to go over in this game, but yeah, not loving that too much either. So I think Bam, Nikola Jovic, and Derek White, they're the 3 that I'm going to be looking into from this game. The rest, not overly keen on, so they can go fuck themselves. Let's jump into the last game of the day. It's the Dallas Mavericks versus the LA Clippers. But before we do, I'm just pumping the brakes real quick. I want to say thank you to 2 people who have become Daft Previews All-Stars. Who are we talking about? We got 99 Rays. I appreciate you for the support, my man. And Antonio Moore. So those 2 have recently joined the club in the last week. I haven't been checking it. Just realized it recently. So I did want to say thank you for the ongoing support. Also, wanted to chuck some reminders out there whilst I've got your attention. Currently, you're looking to try to get promo codes and stuff like that for a lot of the apps in the US. So I'm trying to hook those things up to hopefully help you out if you don't have access to those books just yet. Could be something you want to sign up to. So I'm in the process of working on that. A reminder that probably in about a week's time, I'll be opening up my calendar to any one-on-one coaching sessions you guys would like to have on sports betting. Where I'm really stronger is coaching. We can talk about bankroll management, your betting strategy, how to research, tools that you use. And it doesn't have to be specific to NBA. We can talk about all your betting needs. So I'll be opening up my Calendly very soon. So stay tuned for that one. And I'll remind you all, if it's your first time checking out this video, I encourage you to like, subscribe, comment, engage with my stuff, help me grow. We're on 6,450 subscribers as I record this. Want to get to 7,000 over the next couple of weeks. So help me grow, ladies and gentlemen. We're on the way to the moon, baby. Now let's get back into this preview. So Mavs v Clippers. Luka Doncic is a game time decision, but it looks like he's going to play. Kawhi Leonard is out again, and Tim Hardaway is out as well. Now the Clippers Scored up the series. It's now 2-2. Home game for LA, but Dallas favorites on the road here. Minus 3-point favorites. Projected total points at 207. So let's talk about it, shall we? I'm pretty keen for this one. That Miami Heat game looks like ass, but this one looks a great one. Looks like a great one to watch, and hopefully it's a good one to put some bets on. So jumping into this, I'm going to muck around with these filters real quick to see if on the front screen we can find something juicy. Looking at games, probably the last 5 games is what I'm talking about, because these guys have been banging it out for 4 in a row now. Now, the first ones that come up with the best hit rate, first one's on Luka. So Luka's gone under his 42.5 points plus assist line in 5 straight games. All 4 games in the series, Luka has gone under. But given the amount of times this guy shoots the ball, who is brave enough to take the under on Luka Doncic? Now, I personally am not. So let's talk about his props. His line, 32.5. He's cashed that once in the 4 games. The opening game, he scored 33 points. Now, what's Luka been doing in these 4 games? He's been playing 40-plus minutes every night. He's been taking about 25 shots in every game, only shooting 39% from the field and 27% from deep. Hasn't been getting to the free throw line a decent amount, and he's been shooting 82% from the line. The challenge is his field goal percentage overall has been terrible. His shot selection, questionable as always, but he has been more aggressive. But he hasn't had an easy game, so fair enough. I'm not game enough to take the under here on Luka. On the 32.5, he's going to take 25 shots. He's going to take 10 to 15 three-pointers. If he just gets hot, this is going to blow straight over. So I'm not overly keen on it, but you might be. So best of luck to you. Looking at his assist prop, 9.5. He's cashed this in only 1 of the 4 games. It was the last game, and he had 10 assists and a triple-double. Looking at his potential assists, though, in this series, 11, 18, 15, and 14. So those numbers to get 10 assists are not great, to be honest. So I'm not liking the assist prop too much for Luka. He's more than capable of it, but I don't love it enough to bet it. And then we look at his rebound line, 9.5. He's cashed this in 3 out of the 4 games. In these games, he's getting rebound chances of 19, 17, 16, and 13. He managed to cash this on only 13 rebound chances, still finished with 10. So the Luka rebounds prop, out of the 3, this would probably be the one that I like the most. And yeah, it is because the hit rate is there, but the rebound chances are somewhat consistent. And Luka does a lot of defensive rebounding. You can see 85% of his rebounds in his last 5 games have been on the defensive end, and a lot of those are uncontested. So I don't mind that for Luka Doncic. I don't love it enough to put it on my short list, but that's definitely one that I would lean to the over. His points and assists, I couldn't tell you, man. All right, since we started with Luka, we might as well head to Kyrie. Now, Kyrie, won a few bets on Kyrie as of late, so let's check this out. Outliers telling us that this has had the best hit rate as of late, and it's under 5.5 points in the first quarter for Kyrie Irving. Now, Kyrie Irving, traditionally a slow starter in a lot of games, and he does tend to do a lot of his damage late in the game, missed a fourth quarter and all. Now, throughout this series, in the first quarter, Kyrie scored 4, 0, 2, and 0 points in the first quarter. Hasn't been getting it done, and I think this would be a great play. The only concern that I have in this game is I was checking, obviously listen to post-game interviews and stuff like that to try to get a read. In the last game, at the end of the last game, the Clippers won. The Mavs, they got off to a really slow start in the first quarter. And there was a bit of conversation around how, should Kyrie Irving be more aggressive and assertive at the start of the game? So I think that last game, the Clippers were up by like 17 to 20 points in the first quarter. Kyrie Irving, very slow getting started. His field goal attempts aren't necessarily high, shares the ball, then gets crazy late. And I'm concerned, well, not concerned, but I'm thinking, is there a chance here that Kyrie has got some sort of motivation or the strategy changes and then he comes out aggressive in this? So far in this series, this has been money. Taking the under of Kyrie in the first quarter, I'm just not brave enough to bet it despite the great hit rate so far, given, I guess, how that last game went. So I'd be expecting Kyrie to be more aggressive in the first. I'm not willing enough to bet it, but that's just where my thought goes. Just in case anybody else saw the same prop and was willing to bet it, I ask you to consider this. Now his points line's at 25.5. He's covered in 4 of his last 7 games against the Clippers. So far this series, 31, 23, 21, and 40 points in that last game. That last game, I didn't have Kyrie points as a lean. We knew that Luka was injured going into it, and Kyrie would need to step up and do more. He did. This particular game, I'm assuming Luka's knee is still somewhat fucked up. Kyrie will need to be a bit more aggressive, I agree. So let's dive into these 4 games to see what's been happening. The minutes, pretty good, pretty decent. Field goal attempts, he had 3 games that were somewhat consistent, and that last game went mad. 25 attempts, still shot efficient, 56% from the field, and killed it. Looking at his 3-pointers made, efficient as hell. Over 50% so far this series and over 90% from the line. So the only question you really need to answer if you want to go over on Kyrie Irving's points prop, it comes down to attempts. Is he going to take attempts? Is he going to be aggressive? Is he going to get to the line? That is the question. In the 2 games he's gone over, he's got to the line a lot more. And he shot efficient in both of those games. It really comes down to aggressiveness. How aggressive is Kyrie going to be getting his shots up and getting to the line? Now, I think after a loss in a really important game here against the Clippers on the road, I think on the road, we're going to really need to see Kyrie and Luka lift. And I say and because I'm just going to be one of them. I have a feeling they're both going to be aggressive. I just also know that if they become the only 2 scorers in this game, I think that makes life a little bit easier for the Clippers. But Kyrie over, definitely something I can lean on. 25.5 points for someone as good as him. Yeah, I can take that bet. Because Luka, he aggressive as hell. He takes a lot of shots. He's just inefficient right now. Kyrie, somewhat conservative. Not conservative, but he's very efficient. Better selections. Happy to pass that ball on. He needs to be more aggressive if the Mavs are going to stand a chance. Now, look at his assists. 4.5. He's cashed this in 3 of 7 games against the Clippers. 2 out of the 4 in this series. 6 and 5 in the last 2 games. So far this series, 8 and 8 potential assists. Those first 2 games in LA. And then the 2 games at home, 10 potential assists, where his assist numbers were a little bit higher as well. We're heading back to LA. I don't know if the potential assists will stay up there. They might decrease. So I've got no lean here on the assists. The rebound prop, this has been a pretty good prop throughout this series. The line's actually moved. It was at 4.5 for a majority of the time. He's covered in 5 of his 7 games against the Clippers this year. In the 4-game series, 7, 6, 4, and 7 rebounds for Kyrie. So the 5.5, I probably lean to the over on. The game where he went under, he only had 6 rebound chances in that game. So he has covered in 3 out of the 4. But what I would like to see is at least 11 to 12 for Kyrie. He did have 13 in the last. I feel like this could be a game where he gets a little bit more minutes. That last game, 45 minutes played. I think Kyrie would play over 40 minutes again in this one. So I don't hate the rebound prop. I just don't love it enough to bet it. I think looking at a combination here of points plus rebounds could be a play here for Kyrie. 31.5. Now, he's only covered that in 2 out of the 4 games, but I feel like he's got potential to really go over that rebound line, but he also has potential to really go over that points line. Is there one where I think he's really going to overexceed? No, I do not. But the potential to overachieve in both and potentially cover what the other may lack is one thing I'm thinking about. So I think the points plus rebounds here, I think he's good. Well, we know that he's good enough to cover this in points alone. He's not going to get fucking 32 rebounds, I can tell you that. But I do like the points plus rebounds to get a little bit of balance on both sides. So, yeah, that's going to be something that I'll probably fuck around with, but I'll research that a little bit later. His assist prop, not overly confident on that. If anything, I'd lean to the under. But, yeah, I wouldn't bet that. I'm just telling you, that's where my heart goes. So that's Kyrie. Who else is there on this Dallas team that might be worth looking at? D. Gafford. Let's check out Gaff. Now, his points prop, 7.5. He's not on the injury list, so his back must have all magically repaired itself. He's covered this in 1 of 4 games this series, 3, 0, 8, and 5. His last 2 games, clearly his back's better. He's playing 25 and 18 minutes. So the minutes are back up there. The field goal, not very high. He's only had 1 game where he shoots 80% from the field. And if you're just dunking the ball, you should be, but it looks like he has struggled a little bit. So, yeah, points prop, I don't love that. Rebounds, 5.5 boards. He's gone under in all 4 games. Check this out, though. The last game, he had 14 rebound chances and only finished with 5 rebounds, which is sickening. If I look at his last 20 games, just to get a good sample size, in his last 20 games, 14.8 rebound chances, averaging 6 rebounds per game. So he's probably hitting about a 40% rate. So if you look at these head-to-head games, and 8 rebound chances, 14. Yeah. So the actual 5 rebounds, probably 1 rebound lower than I would expect. But yeah, I'm not overly keen on Daniel Gafford here. That's what I'm saying. What else do I have? Got Josh Green. So Josh Green, I think this guy could be money if he's getting the minutes. Now, let's have a look at it. His points line 4.5. In the 4 games so far, 4, 0, 8, and 2. So covering in only one of the 4 games. His minutes, he's played one game where he got decent runtime, and he had 8 points in that game. So I'm not loving that because we can't get a good guide on how many minutes he plays. But his rebounds could be a play. He's had 1, 7, 5, and 1 rebound. Minutes all over the joint. But if we look at his rebound chances, 3, 8, 7, and 1. So a lot of it really depends on how many minutes does he get, and also what type of game are we looking at when Josh Green is on there? Because he does hustle very well. There are periods of the game where just both sides are just missing a lot of shots. So Josh Green is a pretty good offensive rebounder. In his last 5 games, 35% of his rebounds have been on the offensive end. So it really depends on what type of game do we see when he gets in there. So I really think this is a play where he goes well over, or he doesn't get close to it. If he gets into the game and the teams are just trading buckets, he's probably not going to get any. But if he did everything for the short amount of time that he's on there, he could really fly over his line. So I'm not betting this, but I think the best way to play Josh Green is to take him for a lot, or don't take him for nothing. So I'll be conservative today. I'll choose not to place any bets on Josh Green. Let's be a bit mature about it. Who else do we have? Maxi Kleber, PJ Washington. They could be good looks. Let's have a look at PJ. Diving into his points prop first, 10.5. So far this series, 11, 18, 10, and 10. Minutes are there. You don't have to worry about that. Field goal attempts, very consistent. 10, 10, 10, 9. 3-point attempts, that's consistent too. But what's inconsistent is that percentage. So I've got no real steer on the point side of things. His rebound one could be an interesting one. I think that's been close a lot of games. 5.5. He's gone 7, 6, 5, and 4. Rebounds trending down. Rebound chances consistent in the first 3 games. That last game only had 7 rebound chances. That last game was the highest scoring game of the series. So fair enough that the rebound chances were down a little bit. But yeah, it depends on the type of game that we're going to see. The projected total for this game, or the line in this game, is 207. And the 207, it's gone under 3 games. The foot went under 207. So that's probably a bit more comparable. And these are the numbers that I would expect, 7, 6, or 5 for PJ Washington. So yeah, I'm not overly keen on it, but I think if playing alternates just to get a parlay, 4 to 5 rebounds, 4 rebounds for sure. But I don't know about the full line here. And then assists, I don't believe he gets too many of these. 1.5's the line, going under in all 4. So that's not great. We've got Maxi Kleber. Now, Maxi Kleber gets a good run sometimes, but let's look at his 3-point prop. So for him to make 1 3-pointer is minus 119. He's made a 3-pointer in 3 consecutive games in this series, 3 out of the 4. His minutes, not consistent, but I guarantee you he will get minutes. And he's taking on average 2 attempts per game. Last 2 games at home, only took 1 attempt in both of the games, but he did make them. So bit of a Hail Mary there. Not a Hail Mary, but it's really a coin toss if Maxi Kleber makes a 3-pointer or not. So I'm not loving that. His points line, 3.5. All of his points have come from 3-pointers so far in this series. So I think if you're going to bet Maxi Kleber, that 3-point prop, you're better off just taking that one. But yeah, not overly keen on a lot of these players for Dallas. Sorry about it. Kyrie Irving, probably the only one I'd be willing to play. But let's have a look at these LA Clippers. We've got no Kawhi Leonard. So Paul George, James Harden, probably the players expected to go off. Now let's take a look. So James Harden, let's check out his points prop first. We're looking at 22.5 in this game. He's cashed this in 2 out of the 4 games, 33 in that last one. The games he went under, 22 and 21 points. So he has been scoring quite well. The minutes are there. You don't have to worry about that. Field goal attempts are not very high, but he's shooting over 52% from the field, which is pretty wild. He's shooting 47% from 3 in these last 5 games. Been crazy. So I think he's due for some regression. He can't possibly keep nailing 4 and 5 3-pointers consistently against his team. And free throws, he has been getting to the line okay and hitting them at a very high percentage. But James Harden points at home, I can't take the under. I'm leaning the under, but I just can't bet it, to be honest. One I might be interested in is looking at this 3-point prop. So his line's at 3.5. To go over is one plus 120, and to go under minus 120. So he's only gone under this in one of the 4 games so far. I question whether he's going to be able to make 4 for the 3rd consecutive game. And if we look at his volume, 7.2 attempts. So as an average, he didn't make 6 in the first game after attempting 11, but surely there's something in the strat here that says don't let James Harden make 3-pointers because he's been killing us. So I'd probably lean to the under in his 3-point play. I'm just not sure if I'm willing and man enough to take it. Looking at his assists, 7.5's the line, minus 135 though. I don't love that. He cashed this line in the first 2 games at home in this series, 8 and 8, and then he went under when he was on the road. Potential assists, they remain consistent. 12 in 3 out of the 4 games, 13 in one of the others. So it really comes down to role players being able to make their shots. So I'd probably, lean to the over, but I wouldn't bet it. Rebound-wise, what do we see? 5.5 for James. He's covered this in 2 out of the 4. He's gone 2, 6, 2, and 6 once again. If you like following trends, he's probably getting in this next game. His rebound chances bounce up and down like a yo-yo as well. So, James Harden, pretty hard to bet on right now, the form and everything that's going on. So I'm going to take a pass on that. Let's have a look at Paul George. So Paul George, man, that corner 3-pointer he hit in that last game, crazy. Now, his points line, 24.5. He scored 33 points in the last game. Prior to that, he had gone under this line in 3 straight games in this series. Now, what was different? His minutes were up 42 minutes. His shot attempts, he took 19, but he shot 58% from the field. So his strongest showing yet. 3-pointers, 7 from 10 from deep, and he also got to the line as well. So he shot better from 3-point range than he did from the free throw line in that last game. So Paul George went off. Now, my gut feel tells me to back the under against Paul George. I don't know whether he can put these 2 games, if he can put these games back to back, but I don't know if I could bet that with too much confidence. But his assist prop, 4.5 now, plus money. He's covered that in his last 2, 5 and 8 assists. Looking at his potential assists, 7, 9, 6, and 9. So the potential assists haven't moved too much. What we saw in Dallas, players were making shots when Paul George got that pass away. That's the main difference. I don't know if he's changed the way he's played or who he's been passing to, but just because the assist numbers are better in the last 2 doesn't mean he's passing the ball any more than he was in those first 2. So if we think about probably things coming back down, regression to the mean, I'd probably say the under in his assists is the way to go. And it's not because he went under in the first 2 games. It's purely because his assist to potential assist ratio is very high over the last 2. Looking at his rebound line, 5.5. He's cashed this in 2 out of the 4 games, 6, 2, 5, and 6. Looking at his rebound chances, 10, 6, 11, and 14. We're looking at 6 rebounds. If he can get another 14 rebound chances in this next game, I do like his over, to be honest. I want to have a quick look just without Kawhi Leonard, because I have liked Kawhi Leonard's rebound lines. Those rebounds got to go to somebody else. So, the 2 games without Kawhi Leonard so far in this series, Paul George has covered this rebound line, the 5.5. So, I would lean to the over. At minus 130, though, it's probably not the best straight bet. But, man, in these playoff series, you got to take what you can get. So, I'll add that to my short list. But Paul George rebounds could be a play. Quick look at his assists. Let me check out the games without the claw. And, he had 3 in one game, 8 in the next without Kawhi Leonard. So, the assist prop, not overly confident in. But I think the rebound one, that definitely has some merit for Paul George. All right, who else have we got? There's 2 other players on my mind. But actually, there's 3. Powell, Westbrook, and Zubac. Now, Westbrook. Now, Russ. On the season, if you take Kawhi Leonard away from, take him out of the lineup, Russell Westbrook, it's a lot more. He goes crazy. He starts nailing all of his props. So far in this playoff series, he has not done that. Scored 13 points in the first game. Then he went down to 7, 1, and 5. Really just tanking from there. His minutes okay, over 20 minutes. His shot attempts pretty good, 8, 9, 7, and 8. But his percentage over the last 3 games is disgusting. 22, 0, and 25% from the field. His free throws are shocking. His 3-pointers are terrible. the volume will be there. He'll take enough shots to cover 8.5 points, but it all comes down to percentages, and that I wouldn't be too confident in betting. His props at 3.5. He covered that in one of the 4 games as well. His potential assists in the last 2 games have been low, 2 and 3 in the last 2 games. So not creating on offense either. Look at his rebound play. So I did bet his rebounds once, and then he got ejected, I think. So yeah, 4 and 9 the first 2 games. I think the one thing you need to factor in here to Westbrook is that this game is going to be in LA. The crowd is going to be on his side instead of against him. So he's less likely to assault somebody. And that might be a positive thing for Russell Westbrook in this game. So I think the rebounds, over 3.5 rebounds at -108, it might be something that we can get around. Now, looking at his rebound chances, 5, 14. They're the 2 games at home. On the road, 7 and 5. So those rebound chances haven't been there for us, but he hasn't had the greatest of games overall on the road. So, yeah, that could be the way for Westbrook rebounds. We might be able to get a bang on there as well. I'll take a look at it. I don't really want to take Paul George and Westbrook for rebounds. I don't want to take them both in the same game. I prefer to lean to one, but let's see. I'll do a bit more research and see where we land on that. So that's Westbrook. And I wanted to look at Zubac. So we haven't got a bet wrong on Zubac yet, but let's see where he's at. So his points line is at 14.5 now. It's moving up. He has covered this line in 2 out of the 4 games. When we bet on him last time, his line was at 12.5, and that was a sweat and a half. So 20, 13, 19, and 13 points for Zoo. Field goal attempts, 17, 12, 11, and 11. So I think the line has really sharpened up to a point where I wouldn't be confident in taking the over. If we have a quick look at which ones did Kawhi Leonard not play, we can see without Kawhi Leonard in this series, 20 and 13, 1 over, 1 under. So not loving that. Rebounds at 10.5, 15 and 12. Both of these games at home in LA, rebounded very well. On the road against Dallas, hasn't rebounded too great. Rebound chances through the roof, 26, 20, 21, and then 10 in that last game. The games without Kawhi, he had 15, and then he also had 4. So, yeah, tough bet in here for Zubac. I don't know if I could take any of his plays. His points line is sharpened up. That's the one I have been liking, but now that's gone up, and his rebound line is a little bit all over the place. You don't know what type of rotations he's going to get. But I want to check Norm Powell. All right, went to Norm Powell. His points line, 11.5. He's cashed this in 1 out of the 4 games this series. What are his minutes? 29, 26, 30, and 32. Let's have a filter with games without Kawhi. The 2 games without Kawhi, he went under, actually. The game he went off, Kawhi was playing in that game. So 5 and 11 points without Kawhi Leonard. So that makes me a little bit hesitant to take Norm Powell. Want to look at his field goal attempts. 6, 10, 11, and 8. So, yeah, he's not necessarily taking a whole lot of shots to blow this line out of the water. He's had 2 games, actually. 10 and 11 points where he's taken a decent amount of shots. It comes down to the percentages. One concern, the 2 games at home in LA, he didn't even this line. So that makes me a little bit hesitant to touch Norman Powell. Have a quick scan his rebounds and assists. Rebounds, he's covered in 2 out of the 4, but yeah, I don't know if I could take a guard off the bench to get their rebounds, even his assists. So, yeah, that leaves me quite hesitant as well. So, pretty similar themes, I've got to say, in both of these games. And that theme is that a lot of these player props are fucked. It's going to be a tough one out there. So, I've only got a list of leans, which I actually don't mind. So, I'll probably end up with 3 to 4 bets in these sets of games. We'll see if we can come up with some value plays and shit like that. But look, spent a lot of time, fine-tooth comb. I think the more plays are not to bet, the better it's going to be for me, if I'm being honest. But I'll put all this together. You can check the pinned comment. Hopefully you watched the video to get to this point. Check the pinned comment if you choose to tail with me. But I do encourage you to do your own research. And Outlier, honestly, best research tool that I've found. It's been very successful for me. And I encourage you to try it out. 7-day free trial in the video link below. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. Be safe out there. Peace.
Sub to the channel cause your boy's getting busy. Coming to your line from the west side of Sydney. We've got the free picks and the juice on the daily. It's all free, you don't even have to pay me.